Shalom Aleichem. This is Mark Lichtenwalter coming to you live on this 23rd day of January 2019. This is Fundamentally Mormon. The guest call-in number is 917-889-8827. That's 917-889-8827. Today we are broadcasting live on blogtalkradio.com/fundamentally Mormon. And on Facebook.com/LAZURUS1977, and on YouTube at youtube.com/user/God is my compass, channel name Messiah Ben Joseph. So I was able to fund the radio program this morning, and today I was given a promotion for a year, so hopefully things don't get screwed up, but I paid $199.99 for a year of service on Blog Talk Radio because they gave me a half-off deal, which they've never done before, and today's the first day that I could fund it, and I've been wanting to fund this for many, many, many months. We just never have the money, and I didn't talk to my wife about it because I told her she's been wanting me to fund the whole thing, and usually it's $400 for the year, but things have just been tight. So I jumped on this as soon as they gave me that offer. So hopefully we can start doing longer programs, 60 minutes. Now today I do have to go pick up my daughter at 10:30, so I have to cut it short a little bit. But tomorrow I should be able to do a full program, and I want to do an hour, but sometimes I get on these chapters and reading, and I just want to read until I'm done. So we can actually go up to 3 hours a day. That's 2 hours of live streaming on Blog Talk Radio and 1 hour of overdrive, and I don't want to do that. I used to do that on my old radio show, The Kingdom of God or Nothing, which you can find at Blog Talk Radio and on iTunes. I used to do 2 to 3 hours, 5 days a week. That's when I worked for the post office, and things were a lot easier to do back then because, so I would pick up the mail. I was supposed to be in Emory at 3:45 at the post office, and I would pick the mail up. And I would start picking up all of the post office, go to each post office in Emory County, and get back to Price in Carbon County and unload my box truck, and then load my semi-truck with all of Carbon County and all of Emory County mail except for Green River. And I would drive to Provo to the post office distribution center, and from 8 to 8:30 I would be off. And it was kind of nice. I actually kind of regret moving down here for many different reasons. It's cheaper, and we have a home with a yard now, and we just rent because we don't know where we want to really end up. But I do like it down here. But with that post office job, when I moved down here, I'm not going to get into the details, but things got really stupid. So back when I used to live in Spanish Fork, I'd get off at 8:30, and we'd go over to the Provo Rec Center every night, Monday through Friday, and sometimes Saturdays, and go swimming from 8:30 to 10 p.m., and then we would, usually be out of there by 10:30 and back to the house by 11, and I would do my radio show from 11 to 2 in the morning, so 3 hours, and I'd sit in my lazy boy chair, and the kids would go to bed, and my wife, Kim, would read because she was a stay-at-home mother back then, and then I would... about, 1:30 in the morning, even though I'd still be on the show, I would, my cell phone is how I connect to the studio so that I can broadcast. And I didn't do videos back then, and I was able to still talk to guests and whatnot until 2 in the morning. And then at 2, actually, I think 2:05 was the time I was scheduled to be at the dock, putting the mail cages into my semi-truck. And by 2:30, I'd usually have it loaded. I'd get I can't remember the registers, and which is, I'm not going to get into that either. And I would be out the gate by 2:30ish, 2:30 to 3, and then I had because they have to process the mail, and I would have to take it back down to Carbon and Emery counties, and then I would get off around, I was supposed to be off by 6 in the morning, but things would get a little bit screwy sometimes, and like with the weather going over Soldier Summit, which is actually one of the reasons I quit my job, because some of the really bad storms 2 years ago when I quit, actually this month, 2 years ago, for 2 months. So we had the Christmas rush, which started in November, and it was just nuts with all the mail, and I wasn't getting any sleep. I was working 7 days a week. We'd have to go over the pass with these blizzards, and it was really bad for 2 months. And there were times when I wouldn't get done until 9 or 10 in the morning. So the post office in Emory opens up at 8, but sometimes I just couldn't get there because of how bad the weather was. And when I would, on the days when I'd get to Emory at 10 and I would be done finally, the post office had an apartment in Farron where I would sleep at. But when we moved down here, it just became a mess. And so I wouldn't get to bed till 11, or I'd get home at 10:30 or 11, and I would have to take a shower and sleep. And even though I wouldn't get down to Emory until 10 or whatever, I would get written up or threatened to be written up if I did not pick the mail up in Emory at 3:45. So when I would pick up from the box, the blue box, and from the post office, they would, I'd have to scan it. And if I didn't scan it at the 3:45, I'd get written up. And I was so stressed out, and I wasn't getting any sleep. And when we moved down here, I didn't have a place to go to up there, even though my manager said, so they have these apartments, and they have one in Provo for the guys. I can't remember, the guys that come up from Kanab to Provo, they actually get up there and they are allowed to go to this apartment and go sleep and take a nap or whatnot. And at this apartment. And they told me if I moved down here that they will allow me to use the apartment. So it was a 2-bedroom apartment, and there was 2 guys, one in each bedroom. And I said, I don't care where the bed is. Put it in the living room, put it in the kitchen. It doesn't matter to me. Just let me have a place to go sleep. And after I moved down here, they decided not to allow me to do that. So I ended up putting building a little thing in the back of my semi-truck where I could go in and lay down. And then the postmaster over the Provo postal facility where I would park the distribution center, they flipped out when they found out I was sleeping in the back of my trailer, because my semi-truck was a day cab only. It didn't have a sleeper because there's no room in the Price post office for a trailer with anything more than a day cab. It already sticks out on the sidewalk. It's not long enough. So I didn't have the opportunity to have a sleeper to sleep in it, And so I would, so we bought another minivan. So we had 2 minivans, and I took the seats out the back, and I put a twin mattress in the back. And in the wintertime, it is really cold, and I wasn't going to run my car for 4 hours while I was there waiting for the mail to be processed. So I got a propane heater and like a propane. Well, yeah, it was a propane heater, but it just wasn't working. And because my boss reneged on what he said, like we should never have moved down here. I actually kind of miss living in Spanish Fork, and the reason I miss it is because there we would attend the LDS church, and even though I'm no longer a member of the LDS church because I was excommunicated for apostasy for my beliefs, mainly in the Adam God doctrine, which was taught by Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball and a whole bunch of other people, and even Joseph Smith taught it. And I can't prove that right now, but I have proved it in the past. I just don't have the documents right now. But and it's even taught in the temple. And I don't want to get into that either. But my stake president in Vermont said that I was an apostate. And when I told him about my experiences with Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, where I've seen them face to face and spoken with them, and our Father in heaven placed his hands on my head and sealed me up into eternal life, which it talks about that in my patriarchal blessing. He said that I was a heretic, and he got all red-faced. I wasn't even allowed to attend my excommunication, which really upset me because the LDS church was my life. I loved going to church, but when he moved out to Utah, the bishop didn't have a problem with me speaking at church or in church or participating, and but the stake president was concerned, so he wrote Thomas Monson in the First Presidency, who I know. I knew Thomas Monson because I dated his great niece, and I was actually, my first wife was President Hinckley's great niece. Her name's Rebecca Limburg. Anyway, but I was married to her, and we used to go to church at the Joseph Smith Memorial Building from time to time with President Hinckley back when he was president of the church. So, and they knew me anyway, but the stake president received a response from the First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they told my stake president, don't basically leave him alone. He can attend and he can speak, and it's not a concern. So, and it really drives me a little bit nuts because, like, even President Hinckley back in 2004. I wrote him a detailed letter about my first experience with Jesus Christ in the Salt Lake Temple, where I was taken out of my body and I was taken by Jesus Christ in the Spirit through the Salt Lake Temple, and I went into the Holy of Holies where I heard the voice of the Father and I was given instruction, and I had very detailed accounts of it. And this isn't something that, like, this room is actually not known about, but I knew about it, which gave them interest in me. There is a room behind the east. It's in the East Tower, right under the Angel Moroni. It's the highest room in the temple. Where there is an altar, and that is the true Holy of Holies. And when I drew detailed diagrams of it and showed and wrote President Hinckley about my experience, he sent L. Tom Perry to come meet me to interview me about this. And it was kind of funny because I think it was a Thursday, I got a call from my stake president, and he said, and I was in a singles ward back then in Taylorsville, Utah. It was the Hawarden Park ward. Actually, I think it's in West Valley, but it's like right on the border of Taylorsville and West Valley. And he said, somebody wants to meet you on Sunday. He wants you to be to the sacrament room early so that he can speak with you. And I said, who is it? And he said, just be there. Will you be there? And I said, yeah, of course. So me and my then fiance, Rebecca Limburg, President Hinckley's great niece, went to and we sat in the pews, the back row, and waited for this mysterious visitor to come. And I heard the foyer door open, and I looked over, and there's L. Tom Perry, and he comes over and he shakes my hand. And I'd seen him around Temple Square because, like, I was activities coordinator in the singles ward. Every week, I would say, okay, this is an ongoing thing. We are meeting by the flagpole just east of the tabernacle or west of the temple. And I think it was like at 9:30, they closed the doors for music and the spoken word, and we would go there every single week. And then after, at 10:30, we would go, and if you walk, and you can still do this, maybe I shouldn't share this. I'm not going to share how you get in. Anyway, there is a specific door in the Joseph Smith Memorial Building, and you walk up to that door, and there will be a man standing there, and he will say, "Are you here for church?" And the sidewalk ends at that point, so obviously you're there to go in. And you say yes, and he opens the door, and you walk in, and you go upstairs to the chapel, and you go to church with President Hinckley. And it actually, I'm not sure if Russell M. Nelson goes there, but I know Dallin H. Oaks goes there, and Thomas Monson didn't go there, even though that was his ward. He liked to go to his home ward over there just south of 33rd South over in, I don't know what the name of that Mill Creek area. Anyway, his house is over in the area where he lived, which he kept, even though he lived in the apartments owned by the church in the well, it's not an apartment. It's in the church office building. Anyway, but he liked to go to that, so he didn't even go to his own ward. But he went to the ward where he was a bishop in that ward, and where people knew him on a personal basis. And anyway, but L. Tom Perry, he interviewed me, and I remember the last thing he said to me. He slapped me on the back with that. He always reminded me of a used car salesman, like not sleazy, but that grin that he had and that smile on his face. And he was a large man. He was a very tall man. And he slapped me on the back and he said, "Well, God's the one that chooses his prophets. We sure don't." Didn't understand that then. I absolutely understand that now. The reason I bring it up is because I told my stake president, and I even have and you can find the pictures to the letter with the archive numbers, because the letter that I wrote them was archived in the First Presidency vault and the church archives. And like it even says Office of the First, it's a stamp with a number on it. Office of the First Presidency, been a while since and I still have the letter too. They sent me a copy, they kept the original. But anyway, he said, L. Tom Perry said after we met, he said, and it's kind of funny because the ward house where the singles ward was that I went to was also the stake center. So L. Tom Perry says, your stake president wants to meet with you after sacrament, and go ahead and go meet with him after sacrament. And then he went up and sat on the stand, and like he talked for a little bit, and he told everybody, hey, your talks that you have today, just give me some time at the end of the sacrament meeting. And then he talked, and then like as they were singing the closing prayer, he left. And I told my stake president in Vermont when he accused me of being a bald-faced liar for telling him about my experiences with Jesus Christ and with Heavenly Father. I said, well, all you have to do is call L. Tom Perry, and he'll tell you. And I tried to show him the copies of the letter, and he said I made it all up. And so when L. Tom Perry died, it really made me very upset. But I know that they all know who I am. But when we lived in Spanish Fork, I could go to church, and we never had any problems. And I couldn't deny, and that's the whole thing. They said I could be rebaptized if I would deny the Adam God doctrine. And I said, I can't deny it. I know it's true. And it's taught in the temple. And, but they allowed me to participate, and nobody was mean to me. And it was funny because, like, I would always, I used to be the gospel doctrine teacher for many years. I and elders quorum teacher and elders quorum secretary. And I always had comments because I study a lot, because I love God and I love the scriptures. And when we lived in Spanish Fork, it was so funny because, like, people would be like, I feel the Spirit so strong when you speak and you give your testimony and all these things. And, like, I never told them in the ward that I have had, personal experiences with our resurrected Savior and with our Father in heaven in the flesh. Like, it wasn't a dream. I mean, I've had those too. It wasn't a vision. It was I embraced them in the flesh, and I felt them. And people would... they would always tell me, oh, I love it when you give your comments and everything. And then they would find out that I was excommunicated, and they would go to my wife and they would be like, I don't understand. I feel the Spirit is so strong around him. But they were still nice, even after, like, the information got out about my experiences. Like, everybody was very kind to us. And when we moved to to Emery County, everybody was very kind to us at first. And then the stake president found out that I had been excommunicated for apostasy. And he had the bishop tell me that I was allowed to come to church, but I was not allowed to speak to anybody at church. And I said, I'm not going to come here and be a bump on the log, and I'm not going to deny what I know is true. I wasn't causing, and this is like 2 months after we moved here, and we've been going every week. I wasn't causing any problems at church at all. I didn't advertise about my radio program. I didn't tell people about experiences. I kept everything very basic because I didn't want trouble. And they told us that they didn't want us there. So I made a big deal. My wife was in Sunday school when the bishop and the bishopric pulled me into the office and told me that. And I walked into Sunday school and I told my wife, they don't want me to talk in this church. I'm not going to come here. I'm not putting up with this crap. Let's go. And so, like, that caused a little storm that went through the whole ward, where people were like, what's going on? Like, I thought everything was great. Like, So anyway, rumors got out. And this ex-bishop now, I've heard people tell me what he has said about me, and just all these crazy lies that run in this whole community. And I'm called the red-bearded false prophet from Emery County. Like, I have friends up in Carbon County that I'm like the only guy in Emery County that has a big red beard like me. And I've had people come up to me, are you the guy they're talking about? And I'm like, yeah, I'm the false prophet. And they all get a chuckle out of it and whatever. But, like, in this county, mostly in this county, in Emery County, people know who I am, and especially if they're LDS. And my kids have been harassed at school because of it, and people are just rude, but they're nice to your face, but they talk behind your back. And then some people are just outright rude, and I hate it. I wish that I lived in Spanish Fork still, because I kind of miss that. And we don't even go to the LDS church anymore because of it. We go to Trinity Christian in Price because we just can't deal with the people anymore. Yeah, and my wife has even talked about having her name removed from the church because we don't want our records to follow us and to receive the kind of harassment that we've received in this county by moving to this place. So anyway, but I don't know why I got into all of that. I wasn't going to talk about that today, but anyway, I think I was talking about how, like, well, I don't know. Anyway, so we funded the program, and so now I'll be able to be on for an hour, up to 3 hours a day, when I can do it, because, I drive a semi-truck at night for 12 hours, and things are, then I have to run the kids, get them ready, run them to school, sleep during the daytime, and whatnot. So, but I'm gonna try to be more committed to doing the programs and making the videos, and hopefully we can get this on iTunes soon so that people can listen to the podcasts, and hopefully in the next couple of months I'll be able to get a proper microphone, and because the kids broke my microphone because they left it out and they destroyed the cord and the plug that goes into it somehow. I don't know, kids, we have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I don't know how they do the things that they do. I'm like, what is wrong with you? But if I don't protect things very carefully, they get destroyed. So anyway, but we're going to start. I'm going to start trying to do the program. So I'm just going to get into it. And like I said, anybody can listen on their phones. The guest call-in number is 917-889-8827. That's 917-889-8827. I got to get another screen so I can watch the studio. So right now I've got the computer in front of me with recording YouTube Live, and then I have over here, I have Facebook recording live, and then down here I have my phone that I'm talking with this microphone, but I've got a keyboard right here that connects to the phone, and if I scroll down, I can read the book that we're reading, right? So I needed to get another one so I can watch the studio. So I don't usually watch the studio. So if you do call in, I'm probably not going to pick on you, and I wouldn't anyway. If you push 1 when you call in, that raises a question mark or an exclamation mark or a hand. It's like raising your hand. And I know at that point that you want to come on the air. And so with the longer programs, I'll be able to take phone calls, questions, comments, which I know that some people are going to absolutely love, because I've got people who are texting me saying, hey, give me a call. Let's talk about this, that, or the other. And I'm like, well, okay, first of all, I don't have time. I barely have time to do the radio program. When I get up, I get ready for work, I have dinner with my family, I go to work, I work all night long, I get home, I get the kids ready for school, I take them to school, then I try to do the radio program if I'm not falling asleep, and then I go to sleep all day long. So I just don't have time to be calling people, and I work in the mountains. I drive up to Schofield, have no cell phone reception up there, up to Skyline Mines at all. And then it breaks up. It's just, I don't have a lot of time to be talking to people, just calling them at different times. But I would like to talk about the gospel when people call in to the radio program, if they have questions or comments. So anyway, I have to go pick up my little girl from preschool at 10:30, so I'm going to leave about 10:25, and let's see how far we can get into Part 2 of ORRIN, PORTER, ROCKWELL, Chapter 9 of Blood Atonement by OGDEN, KRAUT, which you can read for free online for yourself at ogdenkraut.com. Click on Read Ogden's books on the main page. It will take you to a list of links that take you to different books. It's the second book down. It's called Blood Atonement. I will also post whatever I finish reading at Zion's Redemption Bookstore, complete with the links to the book, the website, the fundamentallymormon.com if I post there, which I should. and the radio show, the videos. I put it all there at Zion's Redemption Bookstore page on Facebook. And then I post in many, many different groups, like 10 or something different groups. So I actually admin 3 different groups on Facebook, LDS Last Days Prophecy and Gospel Discussion, LDS Gospel Mysteries, and the other one's slipping my mind right now. But those are the 2 that I really focus on. But I always post my videos there, and then I allow other people to post things there, even if I disagree with them, as long as it's gospel-oriented. So anyway, especially Mormon-oriented, like something, Joseph Smith Mormonism, whichever branch of Nauvoo you come from, and actually the LDS Church is not the only branch that came out of Nauvoo. And then, there's fundamentalist Mormons. I think there's 250,000 fundamentalist Mormons. So it's not like some small group. And I know that's what the church wants people to think, but it's not just some small group. And we all don't belong to one FLDS church under Warren Jeffs. That is a lie that they want you to believe. The Apostolic United Brethren is the largest, and then the FLDS, and then there are independent fundamentalists that are within the church who kind of keep under, they don't talk a lot because they don't want to get excommunicated from the Brighamite Church in Salt Lake. But then there's the Righteous Branch of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then there's the Harmston Group and the Kingstons and the Allreds, and there's many different Mormon breakoffs of the Brighamite Church, but then there's also the RLDS, Community of Christ, the Hedrickites, the Cutlerites, different churches back east that never came and followed Brigham Young that are still churches. What's that church? The Church of Christ, Temple Lot. I don't care what denomination of Mormonism you come from. I like to hear from all sides. And so I allow people to post from all sides. It's mostly mainstream Mormons in my groups. Mainstream being Brighamite because they're the largest. It's like, you've got, it's kind of like the Catholic Church is like the church, and then you've got a whole bunch of smaller churches that are the other churches. Well, the Brighamite Church is kind of like the church because it's so big, even though I think the numbers are skewed. They say 16 million, I say 5 million, whatever, because of so many inactives and so many people just leaving the church. But I need to get to some of this. We're going to get to this. All right. I'm going to read. And we're just starting off from where we left off yesterday. Now, I didn't make a YouTube for yesterday's program. Just wasn't able to. We did do it on YouTube, though, and that video is posted at Zion's Redemption Bookstore. If you're watching this on YouTube, the reason there's not a part 1 is because I didn't do a part 1 on YouTube, but I did a part 1 on Facebook. So that's at Zion's Redemption Facebook page and Zion's Redemption Bookstore Facebook page. Anyway, so we're starting where we left off yesterday. Reports came back to the Mormons that the army intended to make war.